So welcome back everyone. Yeah, so let's wait for a couple of more minutes and then we will start the session. Okay, for some reason my kind of system is hanging a bit today. Okay, let me drop a message in the chat window in case certain time I'll lose connection or in case I am not kind of audible because the network is a bit kind of dicey today. So I am hoping that everyone has gone through the materials, right? The recorded materials and some other ninja videos that I talked about. Okay, as that will help us actually when we start the project and things like that. Okay, so let's start the session actually because it's already 4:06. So we will start the session and others can catch up. Okay, those who are joining late, right? They can catch up and also kind of go to the video as well. So today I'll kind of I won't do anything new today. Today my goal is to kind of speed up your learning of the DOM so that rather than spending 3-4 sessions on DOM, right, I can share some useful resources and the examples and the way you can kind of master the DOM so that once you have that information, you can go back and work for a week on your own and understand all the principles and concepts. Okay, and then when we start with the other principles of JavaScript, right, DOM manipulation should be very, very easy, right? Because once you understand document.query selector, insert adjacent HTML, create element and things like that, things will become very, very easy, right? Because at the end of the day, what we are doing with the DOM is adding an object dynamically, right? Removing an element, attaching some attributes like classes or custom styles, things like that, right? That is what is being done. Or attaching an event listeners, animating and things like that. That's what typically we do with the DOM at the end of the day. Okay? Today I will show you a website that will help you very much in mastering this DOM in couple of days or weeks maybe, depending on how much time you are spending. Okay, and I'll give you an introduction of that website and maybe we'll go through some examples together. Okay, and we'll try to conceptualize the examples. Okay, and so that once we do say 5-10 exercises, then you can take it forward and do all the 100 exercises on your own. Okay, and then come back to the group, ask queries, share your learnings, and then we can learn from each other. So I suppose that will speed up our learning as well. And then we will be able to concentrate on the core JavaScript and the project. Okay, as we kind of progresses. Okay, so that will be kind of the core agenda. It's like some of the references that we will be going through, but it will be quite useful actually. Okay, so am I audible now? I suppose there was some kind of disconnection. I'm not sure whether I'm audible right now. Okay, thanks for the update. I think there is some issue. Hello, am I audible now? I think there is some drop off. I think it should work now at this point. Just let me know, yeah. So I'm audible, right? Clearly. Okay, yeah. Take care. Okay, so in case you don't hear anything from me for say continuous couple of seconds, right? Just drop me a message because I won't come to know whether there is some issue with the mic or not. Okay, okay, let's continue. So I hope everyone can see this website called html-dom.dev, right? Yes. Okay. So let's see what we can learn from this HTML dom.dev, and then I'll show you some examples. Okay. And then now the assignments will be to continue working on these websites. Okay. And this is an open source website actually. It's kind of available on the GitHub also. I think the entire source code will be available in here in the GitHub. So do take a look, and you will definitely learn a lot in a very short span of time. Okay, using this website. Now this website is all about DOM manipulations, right? And using vanilla JavaScript. Okay, this is kind of our goal was, right? Initially when we started the session, the first couple of sessions, right? But then I thought, why not kind of bring up this website and show you how quickly we can develop things. Now this website has hundreds of examples on common DOM operations. Okay, for example, add or remove class elements, right? Append to an element, calculate the mouse position, calculate the size of the scroll bar, change the website's favorite icon, check an element against a selector, check if an element has a given class, check if an element is a descendant of another class or another element, right? So there are a lot of common questions in DOM, which is typically answered here. Okay, for example, some good questions are check if an element is in the viewport, if you're building some custom scrolling, right? Or check if an element is scrollable. Check if an element is visible in the scrollable container. Very useful for building virtual pagination. Okay, intersection observer example. These are advanced topics. We'll cover concepts is basic, but the application is advanced. Okay, and check if the code is running in the browser. Check if the native date input is supported. So detect if an element is focused. Okay, sometimes when you have a form, right, you want to determine whether an input element is being focused or not. Detect clicks outside of an element. Very useful for building tooltip, menus, model dialogues. creating an element dynamically. See, these are all the common DOM related questions, right? And there are a lot of advanced questions here, like there are a lot of things in here. Okay, resizing columns of a table, right? Say you have an HTML table and you need to implement dynamic resizing of the columns or rows, right? So all those common questions are kind of answered in here. So this is kind of a very huge collection of tips and tricks that will help you speed up your DOM manipulation work. So is this clear, everyone, for the agenda of this agenda of today? To understand how to use this and see some examples, so that then you can take it forward from here. Okay, just drop me a message to ensure that I am still connected with you. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's start with small examples first, okay, and then we will go into the bigger examples, okay, and this will be kind of a quick revision also. Okay, see, the first one is say add or remove class from an element, right? A very common requirement, correct? For example, if you have an element DOM element, maybe based on some condition, you need to add a class dynamically, right? For example, you are building a navigation menu, and when you click on the menu, maybe some dynamic CSS has to be added, okay, something like that. And let me just open this part of the code. Okay, and this you already know actually. So you can use the class list property. So whatever element you have, right? And how do you get this element? Document.query selector. Okay, and once you have that element, you can use the class list property and you can add the respective class names. Now you can also have you can also add multiple classes also, right? You simply have to pass in a comma separated values. This we already know, I suppose, right? I think this we already had covered in the past. Similarly, you will also have a need to remove the elements, right? So this class list has a remove method. Okay, and you have to pass in the respective CSS class name, which will be removed from that specific element on which the operation is happening. Okay, and finally you have this toggle method, right? So what the toggle will do is it will take this class, and if the class is not present, it will add it. And if the class is CSS class is present, it will remove it. So it will simply toggle the classes. Okay. So is this clear so far, everyone? This is kind of a quick revision, right? I suppose. Okay, just drop in a message. Okay. Okay, let me. I think there is some audio issue again. Anyone facing audio issue? Take it. Okay, because I'm getting the message that there's a degraded audio quality kind of. Okay, so let's try it out and then let's see how it goes. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is a common example, removing a class and adding a class, right? So this we kind of already know. Now the good thing with these examples here is, right, once you say read and understand how to use this, right? So just to show you, right, maybe I can simply copy it from here. Okay, maybe you can use VS Code, whatever you want. For now, let's go to our good old jsbin.com. Okay, and I'll simply log in here. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I need to check what my login is. Just a second. I'll just shift the browser to Chrome. Okay. Okay, so maybe what you can do is you can open up JSBin or any other editor or your VS Code, however you are practicing. Okay, and then simply try out that exercises in here. Okay, so just to kind of show you in here, I could simply come back here and put that code, right? Whatever I need to try it out. Okay, of course, this will not directly work. That's the reason I'm directly showing you in here, because we need this element, right, on which some events are happening. Okay, this is very, very important, right? So assume we have an element here called div with a class of, say, header. Okay, so this is our div element. So we already know what all these things mean now. This is an heading. Okay, and before we do anything, we have to create a variable. You can use var or const, doesn't matter. And you have to use document dot query selector, and you have to pass in that CSS selector, okay, which is header in this case. Okay, and then I could add one or multiple classes to it. Okay, maybe I'll add a class of, say, active. So nothing will happen at this time because, in fact, something has happened. The active class is already added at this point in time. So if you open up your Chrome inspect tool, okay, only I'm just showing you this one example just to have that correction. And if you inspect this heading, okay, and you should just, it's kind of slow today. Okay, you should see that header class and active class being available, right? So we already know this. I could also verify it by writing an active class and changing the background to, say, pink maybe. Okay, and you can immediately see the results here, right? So this is very quick code snippets, right, which we can immediately try out. Okay, and we can understand how things are kind of working. Okay, let's continue in here now. Okay. The other good thing is this will also give you related DOM elements here. So if you check the more section, right? So it's about, see, check if an element has a given class. So this is a very common requirement, right? Or drag and drop element in a list, okay? Or drag and drop a class. So all the related things you will be presented in here, okay? And then you can click on this link and then you can explore this website further, okay? So this is the method, right? This class list has a contains method for to which when you pass in a class name, it will give you a true or false back, right? Whether that element contains a class or not. This is a very, very commonly used method or utility that could be helpful. Okay, so let's go back to the home page here again. Okay, now see, append to an element, right? Now at this point in time, you already know how to append to an element. So can someone drop in a message in the chat window? How do you dynamically add an element to a DOM? Anyone can recollect from the last session? Append child, right? So see, if you come back in here, so whatever is the target, you can get the target by using document.query selector or document.getElement by ID or something else, but usually document.query selector, and you can use the append child. And this is not a text, okay? This is an element, DOM element, okay? And how can this element be created? You can use the create element to create this element, okay? A quick revisions kind of thing, right? So this is a very useful website. So these are very simple examples I'm taking through first. Okay. Now I hope this is clear to everyone so far, right? From the last session also. This is a quick revision kind of thing. Okay, just drop in a message in the chat window. Okay, yeah. Okay. So let's go back to our agenda. Now see, calculate the mouse position relative to an element. This we already saw, I suppose, right? Remember all this? Anyone remember these examples? Similar example actually that we did. Okay, because you have to add an event listener and get the target and get the bounding direct and subtract these values and you get the correct X and Y coordinate, right? And what are the common use cases? So show a custom menu at click position. Okay. The good thing is it also has a listing of the common use cases. Okay. So I'm not going through this example specifically because this we already covered. Okay. Let's take a different one. See this one. Calculate the size of a scroll bar. This is kind of interesting, right? So you are building a DOM application, right? A front-end application, and you are building something which is scrollable, and maybe you need to calculate the size of the scroll bar. That's a common question. We can go to Google and search for it, and go to MDN and look out for it, right? But quick way is just open this out in here, okay, and see the important thing is here. This note has to be read. Okay. Now the simple thing is telling us subtract the client width from the offset width. Okay, now we know what we have to do. The client width property indicates the width without a scroll bar. Very important to understand. So the client width gives us a value which doesn't take into consideration the width of a scroll bar. That is what the meaning of this is, right? And the offset width, on the other hand, includes the scroll bar if there is any. Okay, because see, the div element or a paragraph element may or may not have a scroll bar depending on the content, right? If it's a huge content and scroll bar is enabled, it may have a scroll bar. Okay, so how do you kind of get the size of a scroll bar? It's a simple calculation here, and the calculation is const scroll bar width equal to document.body.offset width. Okay, now it's taking the document. Okay, we can also do this for the divs and anything that we want, and we are subtracting the document.body.client width because we know client width property indicates the width without the scroll bar. Okay, and this will give you the scroll bar width. Okay, so very good tip to be aware of, right? Similarly, use a fake element number 2 here, right? See, we create 2 fake div elements. Okay, we are creating 2 fake div elements. Fake div elements means we need to build some behavior, and these are simply temporary divs kind of we are creating, right? And one of them is the child of the another. The important thing here is, see, you will be able to understand this method very easily, right? So see, what we are doing here is we are creating 2 fake div elements. One of them is the child of the other, okay, and then calculate the difference between their widths. Okay, so let's take an example. So we have a method, reusable method here. Now this method you can directly copy in your application. So we have and then maybe you need to pass some parameter to make it generic. Okay, right now we are simply assuming certain things in here, right? So see what we are doing here. We are creating a parent, creating the element, right? So how do you create an element? You use the document.create element. Okay, and you pass in the type of element to be created. And you are, by default, you are assigning a sign of visibility of hidden. So this element will be hidden by default. Okay, and the overflow is set to scroll. So the meaning of this is overflow is set to scroll means whenever the content is greater than the size, the height of that or height or width of that div, right? Automatically a scroll bar will appear. Okay. And at this point in time, this div is not present in the DOM, right? We have to add it to the DOM. So we use document.body.append child. Okay, and we are passing that outer div that we simply created. Okay. So is this clear to everyone so far till this point in time? Append it to body. Okay, these are just all the commands that we have used, right? It's kind of an application of those commands. Okay. Now see what we are doing. Now we are creating a child element. Okay. Again, same thing. Const inner equal to document or create element div. Okay, and then we are appending this div to the outer element that we created. Okay, and then we are calculating the difference between their widths. Okay, so scroll bar width equal to outer dot offset width minus inner dot offset. Okay, and then we are simply removing that outer element itself. This is a temporary thing that we created, right? So we are simply removing it, but we are getting the scroll bar width here. This is kind of a reusable function that is being created here for demonstration purpose. Okay, and now if you take a look at this in here, this method doesn't work on Mac OS if the show scroll bar option is set as automatically based on mouse or trackpad. So some caveats are there here. Okay, if it doesn't work on some systems and things like that. Okay, but there are workarounds that we will see for this once we understand how this is being created. Okay, this is clear. This is just a utility method. No need to try it out at this point in time. The important thing here is we know what is the document or create element. We know how to attach the attributes to this element. We know how to append one element to the or as child to the other element, right? So this is kind of a quick revision from the DOM creation method that we talked about, right? One is using the adjacent HTML method and the other is using the DOM methods that we already are familiar with. Okay, later on we may use this at some point in time. Let's come to some more useful methods now. Okay, and now see, this is interesting actually. Observe the query here. The question is check if an element is a descendant of another. Okay, sometimes we have a hierarchy of DOM elements. Okay, and maybe someone clicked on the insidemost DOM element, and we need to figure out whether this is a descendant means it's directly within some other parent element, something like that. Descendant is nothing but the generations below it, right? Now there is no direct method available, I suppose, in JavaScript, but let's see how we can get that, whether something is a descendant of another element, something like that, right? Okay, so let's open this, check if an element is a descendant of another method. Okay, and what is the instructions in here? Assume that we want to find out if the child element is a descendant of a parent element, right? There are simple thing. See, if you take an unordered list and there is a list item li, okay, maybe a click happened on an li, and we need to check if this li is a descendant of a UL with some attribute called, say, class of task, something like that, because there could be multiple ULs in your application, right? So you need to find out the parent, whether it is a descendant and something like that. Okay, now good thing is it has a contains method, but let's see. So what we can do, see, assume that we want to find if the child element is a descendant of a parent element, right? First step is use the contains method. Okay, that means simply we will say parent dot contains child, and it will return you true or false. If this parent contains the child element, the resultant value will be true. Otherwise, the resultant value will be false. But the problem here is there can be hierarchies, right? There can be nested elements, right? For example, if I go back here, if I open this DOM here, and let's say I have I am taking UL here, or maybe I could take something else also. Okay, so let's say we have a div, right? And here we have a div with a class of, say, articles. Okay, and then here we have a div, div with a class of individual article. Okay, maybe this is article 1. Okay, and this is, say, article 2. Okay, and maybe say this has a button called read more. Okay, so this is our UI, right? Okay, or maybe there's a button called, say, delete. Okay, X means delete actually. Okay, and so this is what our UI looks like, maybe. Okay, and maybe we also have some other UI here. Okay, I'll copy this. Okay, and I'll come back here and I'll put this here. Okay, now instead of articles here, we have, say, last week top article, something like this. Okay, so it is weekly top. Okay, and weekly top, something like this, correct? And it also has a button here. Okay, and maybe just to separate these two things, I'll simply put a horizontal rule. Okay, now suppose if I click on this, now I only need to attach, say, one click handler. Okay, because we know, right? Attaching click handler to multiple elements, because in reality this will come from a data source somewhere, and we will be dynamically looping through and building this HTML. Okay, so there can be hundreds of articles, and we don't want to attach a click handler to every button here, right? Because that will be considered a bad practice. Everyone agrees with that from the last discussion that we had sometime, right? Adding too much of event listeners is a bad thing, right? So remember event delegation we talked about. Okay, that means at the parent level somewhere here, I can attach an event. Correct? Maybe somewhere on this level, or maybe this articles level, right? I can attach a click event, right? Just to show you what I can do is possibly is here. Okay, I'll comment this out. Okay, I could say const say articles equal to document dot query selector. There's only one, right? So I could simply say selector dot articles. Okay, and then I can say articles dot add event listener. Okay, maybe click, right? And I am simply writing an arrow function here. Okay, now I am attaching a click event to this articles. Okay, this top level div. Okay, so at this point in time, I could do an alert here simply e dot say tag name maybe. Okay, let's see whether this works or not. Okay, now if I click on this article, nothing is happening. Okay, so let's check whether there is any error in the toolbar, the developer toolbox. Okay, unexpected token. So there is some syntax error in the event that I added. So we have articles document dot query selector articles, correct, and articles dot add event listener click. Yeah, okay, it's undefined because do anyone remember what is this property name? Okay, so this will give you it's a div or it's a button and things like that. Okay, my machine is very slow today. Okay, so div, when I click on button, it's a button. Okay, okay, I think this is outside that articles, this one, right? So I'll also put this within that article section just for demonstration purpose. Okay, so now we have this different collection of articles, etc. here, right? And we can click on buttons, etc. and things like that. Okay, and maybe we have some other button somewhere, right? Now what I need to do is whenever this button is clicked, okay, maybe I need to check the button that is clicked whether it is a descendant of say this class article, then only something has to be done, right? Because see, at this point in time, anywhere I click, you will get that click, right? Because everything is within the same parent. Okay, so we need to check whether the button that is clicked, say delete button here, it is a descendant of this div with a class of article. So sometimes that check needs to be done. Okay, that is where this concept and applications will come into play. Okay, and this is useful for micro optimization in future when you are working with DOM and things like that. Okay, I think everyone got the context why descendant will be needed. Because we need to grab the element, we have to go to the parent, and check whether it contains a div with a class of article, something like that. Okay, hierarchical traversal we need to do. Okay, that's where this will come into play. Okay, so first thing is we know this method. There's a simple method available called parent.contains_child. Okay, and it will tell whether it's descendant or not. But then you have to traverse actually, right? You have to in a parent-child relationship, right? You just need to go and traverse till that top level parent is reached. So that's why there's a helper function created here, wherein you can do that needed traversal. Okay, and many times this will be used, right? So if you take a look at this helper method, right? Let's go through it. Check if a child is a descendant of a parent. Okay, and what is the helper method taking? Is taking a parameter of parent and child. These are nothing but two DOM elements. Okay, one is the parent element and the other is the child element. Okay, and here in our case, parent element will be this say articles. Okay, and child element could be this button that is being clicked. Okay, it could be anything actually. Okay, and what we are doing here is see, first what we are grabbing is we are grabbing the parent node from the child. So wherever the click happened, we are simply grabbing the parent node, right? For example, the click happened on this article 2 here, the parent node will be this div with a class of weekly top. Okay, because that is what we are doing in here, right? Then what we are doing is we are checking whether this node is valid or not, right? That means it is not null. Okay, and as long as this node is not null, okay, we are simply looping here. Okay, and what we are doing in the loop, we are simply checking if the node and the parent is same. The node and the parent is same, we have reached the top level, right? And we simply have to return from there. Okay, because yeah, it's a descendant kind of. Okay, otherwise what we are doing is we are actually grabbing the parent node from that node. So for example here, the first iteration, the parent node will be this. Okay, this is my element on which the click happened. The parent node will be say div weekly top, and the parent of this parent will be say last week top. Okay, that's what this loop is happening in here. Okay, node equal to node dot parent node. Okay, and again the loop continues, and this will continue till either there are no elements or the node and the parent are the same. And this will tell you whether the element is a descendant of specific other parent element. Okay, if this condition is not true, finally you will simply return the false from here, because we are going up to the root but couldn't find the parent. Okay, and Jquery and all those libraries had methods like this, which is already wrapped, right? So this is what something this method implementation will look like. Okay, so this you can work with any DOM element, and suppose you have one element and you need to check whether this element is a parent of some other element, right? You simply have to call this function is descendant, and it will either be true or it will be false. Okay. This will be very also useful when you implement drag and drop operations, complex drag and drop operations. Okay, this will also be useful maybe for detecting click. So there are related use cases. Get the parent. Oh, okay, these are just examples that are given, more examples. Okay, but is this logic clear how this is working, everyone? Okay, so no matter on which level of the tree you are in the DOM, if you are calling this method, passing in the child and a reference to a parent, okay, you need to check whether the child is a descendant of the parent. Either it is true or it is false. Maybe when it is false, there are two levels of hierarchies here, right? Suppose there is an articles hierarchy, there's also a header hierarchy here. So it will go and check up to this hierarchy. It is not found, it will simply return false. Okay, because the context is very, very important, right? Within the context of what parent and what child we are trying to work out this loop. Because there is no direct method to get that information, right? So that's why we have to write these small loops in here and get that feature implemented. Okay, so these are all utility methods we are seeing now. So these methods will form part of a library or framework later on. Okay, but this kind of utility methods will be needed. Okay, for example, just to try this out, what I can do, I can simply copy this, okay, and go back here, okay, and maybe I'll paste it here, okay, and then what I can do here is, I know the parent is, so I'll simply call this as, this is the parent, okay, and child is nothing but this one, wherever the click happened, right? So this is the child, okay, so I could simply say, const say is child equal to is descendant, right? This is the method, is descendant, and we are passing in the parent. What is the parent? Articles. And what is the child? Here is e dot target. Okay, and let's only alert the is child variable now. Okay, at this point in time, if I click here, we should get true, right? Because yeah, entire thing is within this child element, right here. It's actually within this article. Okay, now if I move this, say last this one, I'll move this out, the last week top. Okay, I move this last week top. Definitely there won't be any click handler here, because the click handler we have attached to the articles section, right? Okay, so maybe I'll simply put a wrapper on top of it. Just for our reference here, I'm putting a top level wrapper so that both that divs are in a separate section. Okay, and then what I can do here is, okay, I can do some checking in here whether it is contained or not, whether this is contained, right? Okay, so let me come here and select another parent here. Say const parent2 equal to document.query selector. And maybe this is not articles, but this is the parent that we are looking out is, say, last week top. Okay, so right now it will not work. Okay, because we have to change this to container now. Okay, let's see what error is there, if any. Okay, spelling mistake is there. So let's correct the spelling. Okay, you will actually get this mistake very, very quickly. Okay, so we have a container class, we have a container, and then we have a click handler. Let's see what is the error. Okay, provided selector is empty. Yeah, so this second one we can ignore it for now. Okay, and you still have that click event happening. Okay, but then what I can do now is I can create one more reference to a parent, and this will be the second parent here. Okay, which is last week top. Okay, and now if here, if I pass the parent as say parent2, and if I click on this article, you will get the value as false, because right, this button which is clicked is not a descendant of parent2, right? It is a descendant of the articles. You get this example, everyone, where this method can be useful. Okay, this is a simple example I am showing actually. Okay, but later on we will see how everything will get connected. Okay, and the other reason I am actually showing you the example is because this kind of utility methods will be needed when we are writing some advanced JavaScript coding or DOM related coding. Okay, and you may have to find the parent-child relations, right? Whether one element is a descendant of another element and things like that. Okay, that's where this functions will come into play. Important is understanding the function, right? This is the logic part, programming part. Okay, you will think how this loop is working, right? We are not, because see, the loop is first you are getting the child's parent node, and then while there's a valid node, you are continuing with the loop and you are getting the parent node of that parent. So if there are no more parent, this node will become null and then the loop will terminate. and then it will come here. Is the working of loop very clear to everyone? Okay, you can try it out later on whenever you're free. Understand this part of the code also. Okay, let me know in the chat window. The looping is clear to everyone, right? Okay, who are new to the coding? If there are any freshers, okay, you have to just try it out. Put this in your code and see how it works, and it will become very, very clear to you. Okay, but simply, yeah, every time this loop is iterated, you are trying to grab the parent node, and there will be a time when you reach the top of the tree and there are no more parents, right? So it will be null at that point in time. Okay, and the loop will exit. Okay, so let's just put a message in the chat window as okay or something, so that I know you are there with me. Okay, take care. Okay, so let me go back again here. Okay, and you will see some interesting examples now as we progress through this DOM. Okay, and there are a lot of things in here. Okay, see, not all the 100 I'm not going to cover. Okay, the idea is once you know, you have to work through this. Okay, and that's where the assignment exercise comes into play later on. Okay, and your queries should be addressed through the Telegram so that we can have a collective learning. Okay, but once you know how we have to test it out, you can easily practice this out later on. Okay, now let's take a complicated example maybe so that will give you an indication. Not a complicated, but kind of interesting example in here. So let's see which one to take. See, these are all very common. Get siblings of an element. Siblings means elements at the same level. Okay, get the closest element by a given selector. Very, very useful method, closest element. Okay, these are very, very useful. Okay, but then before that, let's just scroll down and okay, form etc. we'll cover later on. Uploading वगैरह we will cover later on. Okay, attaching, detaching, we already know. Creating a range slider, you can take a look at it. Okay, drag to scroll. Okay, this is kind of advanced, right? Drag to scroll. Let's take a look at whether we are able to understand the code. So the important thing is in programming and coding is, right, whether it's a beginner topic or whether it's an advanced topic, what matters is, are we able to navigate the document with some help maybe if needed. Okay, because in real programming, right, you will not know everything. 30 or 40% of your time you will be researching, Googling and figuring things out, right? But once you understand how things work, it will become very, very easy to implement and apply whatever we are getting it from the web or Stack also with an understanding, and we can implement that in our code, right? Let's see what is this drag to scroll here. Okay, I'm just opening this drag to scroll. Okay, let's see whether there's an example or not here. Okay, there's a demo here, see. Now observe the demo. So what is drag to scroll? So one thing is, yeah, there's a scroll bar here, right? So I think I can scroll it like this. Okay, and it is actually scrolls. Other thing is I can drag here probably like this, see, and you can scroll. Is this clear, everyone? What is drag to scroll? Very, very useful, right? Okay, yeah. Okay. Because on my side the screen is freezed actually, so I'm not able to see what you are seeing. Okay, so this is what you want to implement, right? Very common, because it's difficult to go and grab this kind of scroll bar, right? Many times because they are very small and minute, right? So let's see how we can this is implemented and whether we are able to understand the implementation, right? So let's go back here to the code. It's quite a lengthy code, right? It appears. Okay. Now let's understand the requirement first. So requirement we already know. Okay. See, the idea is user often uses the mouse to scroll in a scrollable container. In addition to that, some applications also allow user to scroll by dragging the element. You can see the feature implemented in PDF Viewer, Figma. There are some tools, right? In fact, in PDF Viewer, a design tool like Figma and a lot of other tools have this implemented, right? And how can we implement this in a web application, right? So this is what this is all about. So initially we have a div with an ID of container, okay, and class of container for styling. Okay, not very critical, right? Now important thing here is the element must have at least two CSS properties. One is the cursor is set to grab. Okay, that's why you are getting that hand here, right? Grab window. Okay, because of the CSS property. Okay, that's one thing you have to do. Okay, and then the containers overflow is set to auto, right? Because you actually want a scroll bar because the content is huge. So these are the important two properties that we need. Okay, so cursor grab indicates that the element can be clicked and dragged. Okay, so once we have this basic setup, okay, now let's see how we can scroll to given position. Now this is very important, right? Because see, when you click and drag, nothing happens. You have to implement the scrolling code, right? So that you can actually go to the specific location, right? So let's see. So scroll to given position, right? So as long as the element is scrollable, we can scroll it to given position by setting the scroll top or the scroll left property. Now these are the two important properties when working with the scroll bar. It's either a scroll top or a scroll left. So if you're doing a vertical scrolling, it will be scroll top, and if you're doing a horizontal scrolling, it will be scroll left. Okay, so is this thing clear to everyone so far? Everyone with me? Okay, our goal is to implement this drag to scroll. Okay, okay. So far we know, right? These are the two important property: scroll top and scroll left. So next thing is how can we use it, right? So we can simply grab the container either by using the query selector method or get element by ID, and we can simply set the scroll top to some value. This is hard-coded value just for demonstration purpose. Okay, this is hard-coded value just for demonstration purpose. Okay, let me show you this example because this is a complex example, correct? So maybe I'll create a div here. Okay, I'll open up a new JS bin. Okay, we'll do one more example because this is kind of a bit complex. Okay, and we will put that CSS in here, right? So what were the CSS that we needed? The cursor and the overflow. Okay, I'll add this CSS. Sorry, not here. In the other window. Okay, and yeah, and it has some content here actually, huge content maybe. Okay, maybe for the content sake, I can create say div with a class of say article, just to show you. Okay, and it is article 1, and I can copy some content. Okay, these are different articles. Okay, I'm not changing the value. I'll give it a fixed width and height. Let the width be 100%, height be say 100 pixel. Okay, let there be a border of say 1 pixel solid green. Okay, and let there be some padding maybe or margin top of say 10 pixels. Correct, and you will see there's a scroll bar also available now. Okay, but see nothing is happening because we have to implement the feature, right? But you can get that scroll bar hand here coming up, right? Because of the CSS property that we added. Okay, so is this clear to everyone so far? Just drop me a message. Okay, now we have to implement that feature, scroll and drag, right? So right now it's not working. So let's go back now in here. Let me hide the CSS, not needed. Let's go back to the article. Okay. Now we know there are two important things, right? One is the scroll top and the scroll left. So let's give some hard-coded value now and check what will happen here. Okay. So we have an element, but it's not by container, right? So we are using class. I'll use query selector, container query selector. Okay. This is fine. Okay. Why this doesn't seem to reflect anything? Scroll left is not needed because we don't have horizontal scrolling so far. Okay, so let's see whether there are any errors or not. Okay, in the browser window. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any error also. Console.log the element. Okay, I think it's because our JavaScript is not running. Okay, so let's enable the JavaScript in here. So in the output, auto run JS. Okay, so now we are at least getting that div with a element of container. Okay, so let's see why these values are not kind of reflected. If I change it to 300, okay, nothing seems to be happening so far. There is no need for to add pixel in this case when we are using this scroll top and scroll left. Okay, it should actually work without adding the pixel actually. Okay, but I was just seeing that if I directly change the value in here, whether it's scrolling or not, ideally it should go scroll top to say 200, or maybe I can also sometimes open this in a new window and check it out. Okay, so let's this should scroll. There are no errors also. Okay, I'm not very sure why this is not scrolling because it should go to that specific coordinates. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's implement it. Yeah, element is scrollable because we have added this CSS, right, of overflow. So this will actually make it scrollable, Sanjay. Okay, so that's why we have this scroll bar also coming up here. Okay, the scroll bar is because of the element is scrollable. Okay, so let's verify one more thing in here just to ensure that we don't have any conflict of this container and class container, right? It doesn't change actually, doesn't matter actually, but I'm just kind of putting it here. Okay, so let's continue and see what will happen now. Okay, whether this is a temporary glitch or let's try to implement the JavaScript part and see whether it's still working or it's kind of broken. Okay, I'm also not very sure at this point, but let's continue. Okay, so ideally by setting the scroll top position, right, we can scroll it to the given position. This is what the idea is. Okay, so let's see now how we can do it programmatically now. Okay, when I say programmatically, the dynamic values, right? So the implementation is quite straightforward by using the similar technique in the make a draggable element post. Okay, now, yeah, there's a prerequisite, it's called make a draggable post, but then that you can read later on. Okay, but let's understand how much we are able to get from this. We start handling with the mouse down event, which occurs when the user clicks the element. So this is important, right? Because yeah, when we click the element, we have to add that mouse down event, right? So that's what this article is mentioning. Okay, so let's try this out now. So what I can do, I can simply copy this first and then we'll go through it line by line. Okay, and I'll remove this this thing for now. Okay, I'll come back here and we have a mouse down handler here. Okay, and what we are doing in the mouse down is it's a simple function, okay, which is actually getting the position. So what is the position? It contains the left value of the scroll left, the top value, and the mouse coordinates as well, client X and client Y. Okay, and then we are attaching this handler to the mouse move and the mouse up event. Okay, nothing will happen right now until the mouse is moved. Okay, and when the mouse is moved, this code will execute. Okay, right now this code is not at all attached also. We have to invoke this method so that this code is attached. Is this clear to everyone so far? Okay, this is a mouse down event handler which we have to attach to an element. Is this clear everyone? We have to attach this in the next step. Okay, so once we have this method here, now let's go back in here. Okay, and similar to mouse down, right? We also have a mouse move, right? What should happen when the mouse is moving? Because we are dragging, right? So we have a mouse move helper here. Okay, and what is this storing? Uh, it, it stores the current scroll and the mouse position. When the user moves the mouse, we calculate how far it has been moved and then scroll to the element to the same position. Okay, this is the delta, where what is the starting position and what is the ending position and the difference, so that we can actually move to that position. Okay, so this is just the delta. This is a mouse move handler. So we have two event handlers now. Okay, what is a mouse move handler? The mouse coordinate and the position that is already calculated, which should be stored in a variable somewhere here. Okay, okay, and you get the delta X and the delta Y, and you simply set the scroll top and the scroll left. Okay, whatever top is there, subtract the delta Y and subtract the delta X. Okay, this is, you will remember this from our last example that we did, right? So that offset values are correctly accounted for. Okay, so these are the two important event handlers. Let's see if there is any other event handlers here. Okay, good practice, you can go through it. Okay, last but not the least, we should also have a mouse down, right? What should happen when the mouse is clicked? So ideally, when the mouse is clicked, we actually want this selection, user selection, to be disabled. See, sometimes when you click here, right, this is selected, right? We want this to be disabled. Okay, so if I put the code in here, the simple thing we are doing in here is we are setting the cursor to the grabbing cursor. That means the icon will change, and user select is set to none. That means this text will not be selected. Okay, once this event is attached. So at this point in time, this event is being defined function, but it is not attached to any DOM element. Okay, it is not attached to any DOM element, and we would like to attach that to this container, I suppose. Okay, so let's see what is the next step now. And also, what should happen when the mouse is released? Okay? So we have a mouse up event handler, which is here. This is a mouse up. Okay, and in the mouse up, we are simply resetting the cursor, and we are removing the user select property that we added here. Okay, and this dot dot dot, I'll remove it for now. This is copy paste effect, right? So we have the mouse down, the mouse move, the mouse. We have two mouse down handler. Okay, so this should be same actually. Sorry, I simply cut this out from here, and I'll put it here. Okay, they are the same. Okay, and we are kind of ready. Now, this will not work because we haven't yet attached it to the DOM. Okay, that is the next step that probably we have to do, attach it to this DOM. Okay, so now what I can do probably after this is just let's come back in here. And okay, now see, so when you read the doc, okay, you will come to this point. So you followed everything, right? So you created the container, you attached the styles, okay, you created the handlers, okay, and finally you have a demo, but there is no way where it is showing where to attach this event handlers, correct? But we know from this definition that this has to be attached somewhere, correct? So that things should kind of work correctly, correct? So there is a reference in here, right? This pose uses the attach event handlers inside other handlers, right? So there is a reference to the link that we may have to resort to. Just to understand how they have done this. So I'll open this in a new link just to take a look. So, but we know this is nothing but add event listener. Okay, so there will be an add event listener here, right, wherever we want. So this part we already know, correct? So not very useful example for us. We can simply go back here now and we could say, possibly we have the element container here. And I could say element dot add event listener, maybe mouse down points to mouse down handler. Okay, so this is how we are attaching the event. Okay, I think it's mouse down handler, right? Yeah, mouse down handler. Okay, similarly for the mouse move and mouse up. So here we simply have to write. So see what happens in here. So the moment we attach the mouse down event handler, what will happen? This method will be called, and automatically the mouse move and the mouse up is automatically added for us. This is clear to everyone so far? Okay, so the rest of the methods are automatically added for us right from the mouse down, because see, the scrolling or dragging begins when you press the mouse, right? So you can see slight change happening in here in the code. Okay, but not exactly, it's not exactly scrolling the way we want it to scroll. Is this clear so far? Till this point, everyone? Okay, so we simply say element dot add event listener, mouse down and mouse down handler, right? So whenever the mouse is down, this specific method will be invoked. Okay, and the mouse move and the mouse up event will be automatically attached. Okay, and yeah, in fact, this is what all the code is all about, right? But for some reason, our scrolling is not working here. Okay, so if I go back and try to grab, okay, let's see whether any error is there or not in the terminal window, console window. There possibly could be an error. Okay, mouse down is not defined. Okay, let's correct that part. So where is the mouse down? Just a second now. Okay, let's go back and go to console. Okay, clear the window, run. Okay, so now I think everything is correct, right? So we don't have any errors in the console also. Just a second now. I'm just moving the chat window. Okay, so at this point we don't have any error also, but for some reason this is not working. So let's see what probably could be the reason. So anyone can take a guess what could be happening in here. Okay, why this could be happening. So first thing is, see, how do you troubleshoot, right? First thing is when the mouse down is happening, right? Whether this method is being called or not, that we already know. Okay, maybe I could simply come back here and say I'll log the value of the post, console.log. Let's log the value of position, right? So this will prove that this mouse handler is called. See, we can see the value of pause. Okay, and we can see the left coordinate as well as the top, X, Y, etc. So this is fine so far. No issues in here, right? And when the mouse move happens, whether this mouse move handler is being called, right? So maybe I could come back in here and say console.log mouse move, and I could simply put pause.top minus dy and pause.top minus dx. Right? We'll simply put the value. Okay, just to ensure that these things are working correctly, right? So if I move the mouse now, okay, pause, spelling wrong, right? So it should be pause. Yeah, and now if I try to move the mouse, you see the mouse move is also happening correctly. Okay, and as I move up and down, the values are coming correctly, positive and negative, right? So far there doesn't seem to be an issue here. Okay, the only thing is this method is not kind of working for us. Okay, that's the only reason we are not able to make it work. And it probably, I'm not sure whether this is a JSBin issue or not. Okay, so we can verify that also probably. It shouldn't be a JSBin issue, but let's see. Okay, so far till this point in time, there is no error in the code, and I can drag and I can drop. Okay, so let's go back to the example here. Okay, and see, one thing I can do here is possibly, maybe, okay, I don't have a I have a working example here. Okay, so see, this one is working, right? So it's a working code, but the thing is, I don't have a reference to this complete source code. Okay, so probably one thing I can try out is, I can go back to the GitHub, possibly. Okay, and in the GitHub, I can go to the post, because this is where all the code is there, correct? And maybe I can look out for the code for drag to scroll, right? So I'll open this drag to scroll MD. Okay, and this is where the code is. Let's see whether we have any examples in here. Okay, the same code we can see in here, right? Okay, and the demo is in a separate iframe called drag to scroll index.html. Is this clear to everyone how you can read the source code if needed here? Okay, just to ensure that we are on the right track. Okay, so I could actually go to demo/drag to scroll now. So I'll go back to the code here, to the HTML post. Okay, there should be a demo folder, and there should be a drag to scroll folder here. Okay, and this is the index file. And if I open this file, so we have some items in here. Okay, and everything seems to be same. And at the end, we are adding element.add event listener mouse down, right? It's exactly the same thing. Okay, and the only thing is, yeah, we have wrapped this within the DOM content loaded. So this function is required to ensure that things work correctly, and these events are attached at the right time when the DOM is kind of available, right? So let's put this also, just to ensure that it's not an issue of things loading at a later point in time and things like that. Okay, so what I can do here is, I'll simply go back to the top here, and I'll put the DOM content loaded. Okay, and rest of the things will be within that. I'll simply wrap it out. Okay, and I suppose that's the only change that I am seeing in here. Okay, apart from some inline styles, sometimes height and width that also creates some issues. So far no errors and still it doesn't work. So yeah, now the only thing that we have to do is to go back in here. Okay, and let's take the, I think some styles we could be missing. Okay, let's take this div. Okay, and every div has a class of item here, right? So let's take the same thing in here maybe. So in our case, it is article, right? So I can simply take this style from here. Okay, go to the CSS and put the style here. So this is article. Okay, so still it's kind of not working. Okay, and now the final thing is possibly if I come back, take this container, go back in here. Okay, and we'll see actually why, if it's why it is working and why it is not kind of working. Okay, so let's go to the HTML and simply put it here. Okay, so container has a fixed height. That's okay. Overflow is auto, which we have already specified here. The CSS also. Okay, yeah, it's kind of working now. So it was related to some CSS property actually in here. Okay, so what is the important thing that we did here, right? One is the style height is needed, right? So we already specified the height. Overflow is auto, so this is also correct. Okay, so if you take a look at the CSS here, okay, right now CSS is not applied because this is this, right? That's why. Okay, and one final thing I can do is I can take this information from here. Okay, this shouldn't be needed now actually, except we haven't specified height, and that's a probable reason actually. Okay, this could be class also, no issue with the class. The only thing that we missed is the height, I suppose. Okay, so if I remove everything now from here, okay, and if I try, it will not work, right? But then the moment I give a height, because yeah, we need a height because this is overflow here, right? It should work. Height of say 32 rem. Okay, and now it will work. This is clear, everyone? Okay, so reason I did all this thing is because in certain use cases, there are certain specific requirement that needs to be understood. Now, there are two ways to do that. Okay, one thing is very obvious. Whenever you have a container that is scrollable, there will be height, right? That's why this overflow is applied. Okay, that's why this overflow will be applied because anything beyond this height will be overflowed and you will get a scroll bar. Okay. Second thing we did is to ensure that we are able to troubleshoot our code, understand that there is nothing wrong in the code we wrote. Okay, nothing wrong in the code we wrote. That's why we put some logs and did some troubleshooting, right? And the logs indicated that things are kind of working correctly. Okay. Third thing, we assume that the DOM loading could be an issue, but this is not an issue because in this we are within the JS bin. This will be loaded. This will be executed after the DOM is kind of loaded, right? So once we understand that part, and finally when we checked, the only difference we observed was the height. Okay, and the moment we put in the height, either as an inline here, or as a part of your CSS. Okay, now this can be class, container, doesn't matter actually. I simply changed it just to ensure that I was sticking to the example that was being portrayed. Okay, see, things like this can be quickly implemented now. Okay, once we kind of understand this feature. Okay, there's some bug here slightly, I suppose. When the mouse up event happens, right? The scrolling is still continuing kind of for some reason. Okay, but that's okay. We can remove the event handle also depending on the condition. Okay, so everyone got an idea how we can use this website and do different DOM use cases? Because at one or the other point in time, if you are working with vanilla JavaScript, you will encounter all these use cases. Right? All these use cases. There will be around hundreds of examples in here. Okay, let me show you some more examples actually. Okay, later on you can visit this site and practice this whenever you are free, and just practice it, code. The more you code, the better it will become. Okay, and when we do the project, all these things will actually help us out also. Let's take one more example just to show you how useful this can be. Say resize columns of a table, right? Now, sometimes when you think, right, if someone gives you a use case, okay, you have an HTML table, make the columns resizable now. So typically people will be worried. Okay, should we use a library, right? How can I resize a column and things like that, right? Because this is a difficult use case. And 90% of people will go for third-party libraries, components, and things like that. But technically, those things are not needed. Okay, when we can simply do using some simple mouse down, mouse up event handlers and some offset computation, we can simply build this up and then you can reuse it in your projects also. Okay, so just to show you an example in here. So let me open this resize columns of a table. So let's see an example first. See, this kind of examples, they are very useful, right? And everyone needs this when you have a data table. Everyone agrees with this? Correct? And there can be more. Actually, in future cases, you can also resize the rows also maybe. Okay? So how you can implement this is kind of very easy once you understand the core principle. See, let's take it step by step. So assume we want to resize any column, right? So we have a table with an ID of resize me and a class of table, doesn't matter. Okay, this is the structure. Now we have to prepare a resizer, right? What is a resizer? So if you come in here, right, you can see this resizer, right? This line and this cursor is changing. This is a cursor that is being changing to this resizer property. Okay, and there's a resizer that is being added here. Okay, there could be a span added here dynamically. Okay, so we have to set this up for all these columns. Okay, doesn't matter there are 3 columns or there are 100 columns. Okay, once you have a reusable function, it will automatically work, right? And then what we have to do is prepare the resizer. Now see, for each column we insert a div. Now it can be a div, it can be a span. Okay, block level span also. If you change the span from inline to block, it can be anything actually, but for the convenience we are taking a span, indicating that the associated column can be resized. The resizer element is positioned absolutely inside the column. This is very important. The resizer element should be positioned absolutely. So if you study the basics of CSS positioning, you will realize that there are various types of positioning. There is relative positioning, there is absolute positioning, there is fixed positioning, there is no positioning at all, right? So all those things will come into play. So when you say position absolutely means you can give the coordinate, top level 0, bottom 100, those things are absolutely positioned element. So this is very important, right? So whatever tables we are creating, doesn't matter what is the positioning of this table, but the positioning of the resizer should be absolute to the positioning of that column that we are creating. Okay, that is very important to understand. Okay, so once we understand that fact, okay, and here we have some resizer property. So we have a resizer class. Okay, position absolute, top is 0, right is 0, width is 5 pixel. The cursor is set to call resize, and the user select is set to none. Very standard CSS. Okay. Maybe we'll have a CSS session later on once we are done with the basics so that some fundamental CSS can be covered as well. But for now, the important part here is position absolute. Okay, the call cursor is just for a visual appearance, and user select none means you won't be selecting text when you click on it, right? That's why user select is there. Now to create the resizer, see now it's very, very important. So when you have a table, you don't know how many columns are there, right? That means you have to create those resizer divs dynamically. But everyone know how to create elements dynamically, right? Can someone drop a message in the chat window? What are the different ways to create elements dynamically in the DOM? So in case this has three columns, right? So 3 headers. That means I have to loop through the table headers and create 3 resizer dynamically, right? So can someone drop in a message in the chat window? What are some of the ways to create element dynamically? Okay, append child, create element will be there, right? Before appending child, you have to create an element, correct? Agree? Okay, so something like that we have to do here. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So see what we are doing is, first is we are grabbing that table that need a resize. Okay, then we need to know how many table headers are there, right? So we are using the query selector all method and grabbing all the th. Okay, so in this case there will be 3 th, 1, 2, because this is a th, correct? Okay, if I inspect this table, for example, inspect the table, you will see that it has a tr and you have 3 th here. Okay, and once you grab that th, so what you will do? You have to loop through it. Now remember, the query selector all method does not return a true array, right? It returns an array-like object. So that's why we are using this. You can also use the destruction that we had covered in the previous session. You can simply loop through the array-like structure using this syntax also. Okay, so you are calling the for each on the empty array and changing the context to the calls here. Okay, so is there any confusion in this line of code, everyone? Okay, if you have gone through that video, right, this call, apply, and bind will be covered in that that video of JavaScript of Ninja something, right? But we will be talking about this more in future. Okay, but this is simply looping through this collection of array-like objects that we have. Okay, and then what we are doing dynamically, we are dynamically creating a div. Okay, and adding a class of resizer to the div. Okay, and we are setting the height of the table to whatever the offset height is. Okay, and we are adding that resizer to the column, right? Because see, every column needs a resizer here, right? So resizer 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we are simply looping and adding the div in there, right? So that's what is happening in here. Okay, and then what we are doing is, once this is done, we are simply calling a helper method called create resizable column. We are passing in the column as well as the resizer. Okay, so all the logic is abstracted into different methods. Okay, so once you have this method, you can use it anywhere. So is this part clear to everyone? Any queries in this section of the code? What is happening in here? Okay, this is a complex use case, but I suppose now it will become simple to understand, right? Okay, this is a simple for loop. I'll show you an easy way to do the for loop also, okay, in the example. But before that, is everyone with me so far? So first we are grabbing the table headers and we are looping through every header and adding a resizer div. And then we have to create a resizer, right? That is happening in the create resizable column method or function. Okay, now let's go ahead here. Now see, we are going to implement a function called create resizable column, which accepts two parameters, the column to be resized and the resizer. Okay, this thing we already know now, right? Now, in order to allow user to resize the call, we have to enter three events. We know what are the three events: the mouse down, the mouse move, and the mouse up. Okay, but the mouse down should be on the resizer object. That's very important, because which column you are resizing, correct? So the mouse down should be on the resizer, but the mouse move and the mouse up should be on the document. Okay, this is very important to understand. So what is the mouse down doing? Mouse down tracks the current position of the mouse, and mouse move calculate how far the mouse has been moved and adjust the width of the column. So as the mouse is moving, we simply have to adjust the width of the column, because we know the resizer can take us to the column, right? Because the resizer is absolutely positioned to the column. So we can just go to the parent element, maybe something like that, and get the column also. Okay, that's very important thing to understand. So now let's take a look at the create resizable column method. So it has a column. Columns are nothing but that table header that we have, right? This header that we have, th. Okay, that is what the column is. Okay, and the resizer is the div. So track the current mouse position, and we have those standard three events: mouse down, mouse up, and mouse move. Okay, this is the important thing. But the important thing here is we are adding the mouse down event to the resizer. Okay, so resizer dot add event list the mouse down handler. And once the mouse down handler is added here, we are doing rest of the things. Okay, so what we are doing here in the mouse down handler, we are getting the current mouse position. Okay, we are calculating the current width of the column using a built-in method called window.getComputed_style and passing in that DOM element, and you will get the styles property here. Okay, this is a good method to be aware of. Get computed style. Okay, this will give you the correct value that is needed. And once you have that style, you pass it to decimal. Pass in means pass this value, because this will be in string format. Pass it to the decimal format. Pass in by default uses 10, but you can explicitly pass it. Okay, this will give you the width. Okay, and once you have this width, we have to attach a mouse move and a mouse up on the document object. Is this very clear so far, everyone? Okay, that is the moment I click on the resizer, that code will be executed and the mouse move and the mouse up event will be attached. Okay, this is what is happening. Okay, now let's go back in here. And mouse move is very simple. Just calculate the delta, how far the mouse has moved, right? How do you get the delta? The client X will use the current mouse position and the X value, right? The X value is already stored when you do this mouse down, right? So X value is already stored there. Okay, just subtract it and you get the delta. Okay, and then set the column style width property to width plus whatever delta we have moved. Okay, so if you have moved 10 pixel, it will be width plus 10 pixel. Is the mouse move handler clear to everyone? Okay, and finally, mouse up mein kya hai na? We are nothing. We are simply removing the event handlers, and you are done. You have a resizable table handler created, and then you have some styles added in here. Okay, and some extra CSS is being added whenever the click happens. Okay, and kind of you have done, right? Nothing very special. See, but how simple is this code once you understand this, right? And then this functionality becomes very simple to implement. Correct? Now, if anyone tells you need to build a resizable table, you will say it's a piece of cake. On the same logic, you can also create horizontal resizable divs, and you can also resize the rows as well. Maybe you are building a custom data table with pagination, resizable pivot table. Whatever you want to do, you can easily build with this conceptual knowledge. So far, everyone with me? So as I said, right, we will move from simple example to a bit complex examples, right? But then you will be able to understand every line of code, right? If something is not clear, just go to the website, open up your code, just type it down. Okay, and errors, there will be some errors, that's okay. Try to fix it, and eventually you will be able to get how things are working. And once you understand how things are working in this use case, you can apply this knowledge to a variety of other use cases. Okay, that's more important to be aware of. Once you do one example, right, you can later on always give it an active thought process and think through where can you apply this in other areas? Where can this concept be applied? Okay, so a lot of applications will come to your mind later on. Okay, something similar you can also build to resize an image object dynamically. You are building a drag drop applications, right? There are a lot of use cases that will come to mind. Okay, so this is what an hard example will look like, but once you understand, you'll realize this is quite easy to navigate. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, just to verify, only one example we'll try now. So this is resize of column, right? So let's go to that that where is that? Yeah, the demo page. Okay, and let's go to the demo, and we have resize. Okay, resize columns of a table. So let's go in here, open up the index file. Okay, so let me copy this table first. Okay, so table is simple. Huh? We don't have to manually create the table, right? So I'm just copying it here. Let's see whether we are getting any error or not. Okay, so we have an HTML table created. Okay, let's put whatever styles we have in the website. So I'll go back here and I'll take all the CSS from here. Okay, and I'll put it in the CSS section here, right? Okay, now we have a decent looking table, right? Now let's go back to code. Okay, and let's take all the code from here. Okay, and maybe I'll do some small changes to the code. Okay, and let me put the code here just to ensure that things are kind of working correctly. So if I click on this run now, okay, and I am able to resize. So things are kind of working correctly, correct? See, the only thing I'll do here is now this sometimes this becomes why is this for loop written in this way, right? This can be simplified actually. The easiest way what I can do here is I could simply use the ES6 notation. I'll put this within an array and then I'll convert this into a true array using 3 dot. Now this calls will become a true array. So now instead of doing all these things here, you can, okay, I'll comment this line for reference. You can simply say calls dot for each and things will work exactly same. So if you try, so things are still working. Okay, so is this clear everyone now? Okay. Now again, remember, please note that even though now you could think this is very easy, right? But then this is a very hard use case for many people. Okay, if you don't actively think through it. Okay. But then once you understand this thing, things will become very easy, right? And you learned a lot of new things here, right? You actually understood how to work with the mouse coordinates, get the right location, get the scroll width of a scroll bar maybe, and maybe how to use this get computer style property to get the current width. Maybe I'll just open a documentation for this. For documentation, always refer MDN. Okay, and if I go to the window.get computer style, see the window.get computer style method returns an object containing the values of all CSS properties of an element. Very important. After applying the active style sheet. So the good thing is after applying all the active style sheet, you get an object with all the properties. That means you already get a good computed value. Okay, and resolving any basic computation, those values contain. So a very useful property or method to be aware of. Get computed style. When you are building a front-end heavy JavaScript DOM manipulation project, this will come in very handy. So I hope this examples kind of makes it more obvious the kind of application that you can build with vanilla JavaScript, right? And now once you understand this, in future when you work with libraries like React or maybe Angular or Vue.js, right? And something customization you need to understand behind the scene, this is what is happening. Behind the scene, this is what is happening, right? And maybe if you need to customize, this knowledge will help you out to fix existing data table maybe, or to enhance the data table, or maybe to build your own custom data table or scrollable table or resizable table and things like that. Okay. So I think that's it for today's session. I think you found something useful, right? All of you, just drop in a message. Okay, and what we will do from here on is I'll be sharing these details in the Telegram group. Okay, please go to this website. The important reason I took you through this website is you can go through the examples in here. And if you have any queries, right, in whatever examples you are trying, please use the Telegram group. Either me or someone from our group who is practicing this, right, may have faced the same problem, right? And maybe we can quickly solve the issues. And once you do all these 100 examples, I can guarantee you will be a master of DOM with couple of more sessions now, because you will be able to do all kinds of DOM manipulation that you can visualize and think about. Of course, you have to keep on improving and practice. Okay, so that's it for today, friends, and thanks for your time. And next session I'll announce. Okay, Sunday tomorrow I'll not keep the session because I have slight throat issue again, so I'll take a break tomorrow. Okay, and we will schedule it on Saturday. Okay, and in between Saturday, maybe Monday to say Friday, if I am free, I'll put a poll. Okay, and simply even if there are 5 people, we'll start the session. Okay, and then I'll record and make the session available for others also. Okay, so it all depends on time, but Saturday we'll definitely have. Going forward, we will have some longer sessions for projects. Okay, and I'll post that announcement very soon. But it's very important for all of you to put your queries in the Telegram for me to understand if there are any gaps to be covered or not, or if certain things from other videos that you are watching is clear or not, right? If yes, then we can cover those topics as well. Okay. So thanks everyone, and thanks for your time, and have a nice day. Take care. Bye. Yeah. Catch you later, everyone.